My question is this, and Kim or Keith, maybe one of you guys could answer this, is how pastors really should act. And what are your thoughts on that? I see a lot of pastors. We can tell from those on a far left side, that's quite the heresy. What I think we should be more concerned about or more discerning about is the dichotomy between the darkness and the false light. And I think we can obviously see the darkness in the false pastors, but it's the false pastors that really look like lambs, look like sheep, but they still cling to the traditions, man. They still preach it. I was listening to a guy, he's not a Christian. I believe he's a sincere man and God is reaching him, but his name is Professor Zhang Cheng, I think. You probably know who I'm talking about. Yeah, he's really popular now, but he has a good understanding of it, and I believe he's being unknowing false prophet. So I think there's a lot of pastors out there that God still can use, but they're still, I think in these final end times that God's going to make things quite clear, but maybe this can help pastors that are still stuck with certain beliefs or ideas that are deceiving, misleading people. Uh, what do you think? What are your guys' approach on how pastors should really be acting now, especially now in the end times that we're in?
I think the Bible outlines, how pastors should be, but also the Bible, I think, is plenty clear that um, there will be false shepherds, leading the flock. And I think of these, particularly Ezekiel 34, which has a chapter dedicated to this particular thing. And ultimately, what the chapter says is that, you know, God, or in this case, Christ, will be the shepherd of the flock who leads it. And where do I go with this? Is that I think we give men and finite men way too much power. Um, I think for many years now, I have never really looked at pastors as anything more than administrators in the kingdom of God. And whatever they do in their private lives should not affect uh, my spiritual journey. Because if I'm being led by the true shepherd, these men should not should not lead me astray. Uh, Whatever they say, whatever it is that they do, whatever it is that they think that they're leading in their in a way, and maybe this is just me, um, you know, I take it almost like, okay, well, you say that, but I have disagreements with that. I think at the end of the day, everyone is responsible for having a relationship with Christ and having Jesus as their shepherd and being able to discern whether this person is going along with or not. Now, I've, I've been in many churches where the pastor, like I straight up not respected the pastor, because of their decisions, because of, of who they are as a person. Certain pastors have different strengths and weaknesses, and just because a pastor is there that I don't agree with doesn't mean that I have to completely leave that particular church, or whatever, because it's at the end of the day, I think we're all responsible. And at the end of the day, I think we too should, as the people of God, realize that we have a part in the overall plan of taking the message uh, of the gospel to everyone. And that is not the pastor's job really to do that. I think we should do that, and we should take leadership, in the church as well, and be able to like be that kind of uh, check, for the pastor, that comes and does things. So I think I see it very differently. I don't think this question to me personally is something that I think should be even be considered simply because of the fact that we already have a perfect shepherd that is Jesus that we should follow. And the men that we have in church are just basically, they're there in a position of leadership, but they're kind of like as administrators of the flock. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones who lead me. They're not my leader. They're not the ones who I look up to, because we're all humans. Like, no pastor is going to be perfect in everything anyway, right? So why should we look to them for any kind of guidance, spiritual guidance? That's just, I don't know how you think of it, Zach, but that's just the way I see it.